We're so glad to have you here. And today we are going to do comment catch up. And that is where Andy answers a ton of questions from the YouTube channel. We have an archive of over 500, 600 videos. It's always hovers around 500 because we take some videos off that are underperforming. We also have a lot of videos over in our channel membership. So if you're a channel member, thank you so much for supporting us in that way. And if you are a new timer, go ahead and do hashtag first timer in the comments so we can all greet you. If you are back for another round, we're going to get started.
And if you want to join the channel, those who aren't channel members, you can join right now. Just hit that join button right below. It's only $2.99 a month, and we get extra stuff.
You get extra stuff all the time. We love extra stuff. So I'm trying to remove some things so that I don't have it play anymore. All right. So you can ask questions throughout the live stream. Put a Q in front of it. I'm going to go ahead and take that ticker off. And then Andy, here's your first question.
Okay. Any idea what would cause no subclades showing on a DNA test? Well, for this, let's go over the whiteboard and whiteboard stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, and this is where it gets somewhat confusing. I've never even made sense of this yet either, because you might see words like haplogroup, haploclade, subgroup, subclade, and depending on who you're talking to at what time, some of those may mean the same thing. Some of those may mean something different. But in essence, think of it as, let's see if I can, why is this clear over here? I don't want it clear over there. Let me move this. It's going to be clear over there. I can't even get the whole thing. We did something to it.
Sorry.
Okay. So think of it as a bunch of concentric circles. I got to move this down even. Okay. And so everything in this first circle also belongs to this second circle right here. And everything in that second circle also belongs to this other circle over here. And on and on and on and on and on. Okay. So that's the first concept is understand that we have these concentric circles. And so whenever you hear clade or group, start be thinking about concentric circles. Now, this is where I like the way that they used to name stuff before, because it helped explain stuff a little bit better, I think. So for instance, my old haplogroup, if I remember right, R1B1, A2, A something or like that. They used to do it by a letter number. And so what it was is you had this haplogroup R, and there was a mutation. And in that mutation, we got R1. But there was another mutation, and that was R2. Well, that R1 also had a mutation, and that first mutation was R1A. And that second mutation off of it was R1B. And then R1B, of course, had a mutation called R1B1. And you're starting to get the picture here. And this goes down to R1B1A. And so each one of those is basically, each one of those steps is representative of a mutation. Now, what you see now might be something that says RM249, something like that. Well, this R, that corresponds with that R, and that's usually called the haplogroup. That's sort of a top level type of thing. But depending on where you're at in the world, it may not really be that far top level. It might be pretty far down. This M249 actually refers to that very last letter, that last mutation, the end mutation, if you want to say, that defines it. And so when we're talking about subclades, basically each one of these could be considered a subclade. In other words, one of those smaller and smaller circles. So if I drew this out with my circles here, this is R, and then I have R1, and then I have R1B. And so you can see it keeps on getting further and further down in that. And so the question of what would cause no subclades to be showing, well, a couple of things. One, it might be that you don't belong to any. You actually belong to the parent haplogroup. You might be one of the lucky ones that is that R or whatever it happens to be. What's wrong? Are you moving in and out? I don't know what she's doing. Another reason is in order to actually find each one of these, you have to have tested the SNP that corresponds with each one of them. So if whatever testing company doesn't test every single one of those SNPs, then it may not appear. Now for mitochondrial DNA, this usually isn't a problem just because with mitochondrial DNA, there's just very few haplogroups and subclades as part of that. With Y-DNA, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, it has exploded as far as the number of subclades that they've found. And so you're into the thousands, I believe, right now, as far as the endpoints on the Y haplotree, whereas mitochondrial DNA is just a couple of hundred or so. And so that may be why it may not be tested. It may be that you don't actually belong to any subclades. You only belong to that top group. And it may be that the company hasn't actually tested the SNPs for whatever subclades that you belong to. And that's, go on. I think the next question might be similar, but somebody might have had another question. Let me see. Okay, so go back to this question. So that is also the answer of why when you test with different companies, they may have a different haplogroup for you because they've tested different SNPs and they may not have tested the same SNPs that define that haplogroup all the way down. What you should find, though, is that if you actually look at the tree, then whatever haplogroups they say, for instance, one company may say that you're R1B, while another company may say that you're R1B1A. That just means that they've tested those extra SNPs and found that you are part of that. All right. I hope that answers that.
There you go. You got to wrap it up. Just give me a cue that you wrapped up that answer.
I've wrapped up the answer.
You wrapped up the answer. Awesome. So whenever Andy finishes an answer, if you really like it and if you're finding some value, go ahead and hit the like button. And then if you've already hit the like button, don't hit it again because that unlikes the video. But then tell us in the comments that that was a great answer that explained that a lot, or ask some follow-up questions. All right, we're going to take one question from the live audience now. So just a second, let me switch over here. What's the first one? I believe the first one is, okay. Try to find Joe Fisher, the Negro, live in Needle, California, born in Oklahoma, Indian Territory. Cannot find his parents or siblings. Married to Mary Franklin from Virginia. What do I do?
Well, you've got a lot of information as far as locations. You have, go back to the question. You hit it.
Oh, it's right there. Okay, you can't see it. I'm sorry.
I can't see it.
Okay, my bad.
So you have locations and you have some names, and really in that case, I guess I'm hoping you have time frame as well. You don't list years or anything there, but in this case, what you may need to do, for instance, with Needle, California, if this is like 1870, 1880 census time frame, is go into that census and literally look at everybody in Needle, California. And when you're doing this, if you've already, from a simple site and you haven't found it, and you're going through the look at everybody thing, you have to put off any preconceptions you have. So for instance, you say Joe Fisher, the Negro. Well, I would not look at just Black people in Needle, California. Joe Fisher might be listed as something else. And likewise. So at that point, you're really just looking at everybody. You're looking at for any J's, any Fishers, Fishels, Fishums. finer, you know,
or
anything.
or a no surname search at all.
Yeah, or no surname
We
search,
talk about that here on our channel. It's called a no surname search or a no first name search. You just take out the name and just look for males of the right age and a location. Now, the location could be wrong. That's another possibility. And then you have to expand your search. So a couple of things from a genealogical perspective. He handles most of the genealogy, which overlaps to me. And then I handle most of the genealogical side of things. And so what you really want to do is, if you believe that story to be true, then what you've got to do is build your family tree up from what you know. And then one of the things you can do is you can go to your target ancestor that you think you should be connecting in and see, do they have their descendants in a family tree somewhere? And then you can test some hypotheses and some theories. There's nothing against putting somebody in your family tree who's a test case, and then see if DNA matches, like on Ancestry Through Lines or MyHeritage Theory of Family Relativity, then builds DNA matches through that potential ancestor, and then see if it really makes sense. So that's a couple of things. If you're able to find DNA matches that descend from the person you're looking for, and you can build a Watto tool and have yourself as unknown and see how these people match to you, that's another thing based on what I say. And so there's the record side of things of building the trees kind of this way. And then there's the DNA side of things if you want to take it any further.
No, that's a good start.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to this so that I can read some of the comments while you tackle question number 2.
Okay. If 2 people share 100 centimorgans across 4 segments, does that mean the segments are recombined parts of one or more chromosomes that is shared? And yes, let's pop up this. With 100 centimorgans, there's lots of ways this could be done. And this is in 4 segments. Okay. So all that you have to have here is you have to have 4 segments that add up to 100 chromosomes. So let's say we have chromosome 1, we have chromosome 5, we have chromosome 17, and we have chromosome 22. We might have a 70 centimorgan match there, a 10 centimorgan match on these others. There's a possibility. We might have a 30 centimorgan, a 30 centimorgan, that's 60, and we got a 20 and a 20. That's perfectly fine too. We might have a 50 and a 10 and a 25, and that's what, going to be a 15. All those are possibilities. So a 100 centimorgan match can be divided up into lots of different ways. You may have all 4 that are sizable segments. You may actually have 1 really big segment and 3 small segments. But all it means is that those 4 segments add up to 100 centimorgans. They could be even, you know what you could do? We could even have, let's say on chromosome number 1, we've got a 70 centimorgan segment and a 10 centimorgan segment. And then we have another 10 on chromosome 5, and chromosome 17, we got another 10. So it doesn't have to be divided up even between 4 chromosomes. You could have multiple segments on 1 chromosome. Basically, any combination you can think of where you have 4 segments that add up to 100 centimorgans is perfectly fine for when it's being reported like that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to take a question real quick out of the comments. This is from Ashton, and I have the answer actually.
Oh, good. I don't have to answer this.
I have 3% Nigerian DNA, yet cannot find the connection. Any suggestions? 3 DNA tests have all confirmed the percentage. I'm going to drop a link in the comment section below. There is a video that you need to go watch called How Many Generations Back is Your 3% DNA? If you'll watch that video, and then if you have further questions about that, your 3%, then ask in that comment section. How'd I do?
That was great.
How'd I do? Okay, we'll do another one. All right. Hey, come on. Show. There we go. My friend's haplogroup on 23andMe is different on Family Tree DNA. He matches a person and has the same haplogroup on 23andMe. Unfortunately, the man has died, and I can't get anyone else to test. So,
well, and this is the answer to that is what I just talked about at the first question.
Oh, okay.
Because 23andMe and Family Tree DNA are testing different SNPs, and so one tested the SNPs to get to a certain haplogroup. The other didn't test it enough to get to there. And so that's why it's showing different. What you'll see is that they're basically on the same line, though. You're not going to have one group saying, hey, I'm haplogroup R, and another one saying I'm haplogroup E. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to go to the next question. You guys keep me busy. That's great. All right. Suppose you study 5 siblings. Is a 3 Centimorgan segment match between sibling and someone in the sibling validated by triangulating overlapping larger segments, 7, 10, 20 segment matches from that same someone and the other sibling? That is a very confusing question. But this is from Fight Doctor, so let's see how you tackle it.
All right. You're studying 5 siblings. Is a 3 Centimorgan segment match between someone and one sibling validated by triangulation. All right. So actually video this week, right?
Okay.
Drop
the small segments.
The small segments.
Like the debating one.
I talk about segments down to 3 Centimorgans specifically on this. The simple answer is no. You would have to have all sorts of data to show that a 3 Centimorgan match was actually a real match, and basically most of that would have to be because you have like the parents' DNA also to show that, in which case there's no point in looking at the children's DNA because you have the parents' DNA. The fact is at 3 Centimorgans, 99% of those matches of 3 Centimorgans, 99% of those segments are false matches. They are there either because, yes, you're related, but you're related, back 1,000 years ago or so. In no way, shape, or form from a genealogical time frame as far as documentation goes. Or it could be that that segment was formed by jumping between your mother and your father. Or it could be that it was just pure chance because of such a small segment. There's a small amount of SNPs that are being tested. And so by chance, you just happen to match in that amount, but it is not because of any kind of relationship.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to do another one that we preloaded, and then we'll come back to questions from the audience. So you go ahead and read this one.
All right. On MyHeritage, I got a triangulation with SG and CH on chromosome number 15. With SG, I also triangulate with JK, but in chromosome number 10. Is it possible that chromosome number 15 is the great-grandfather and 10 the great-grandmother from this couple? So let me just draw.
I got it.
Oh.
Yeah, I switched you.
Let me draw this out a bit. So this is 15, chromosome number 15, and chromosome number 10. And we're going to color in this segment right here. And we're going to color in this segment right here. So this is Alice music. So AM and SG and CH all triangulate right here. And AM, SG, and JK all triangulate on this other segment on another chromosome. So the question is it possible that one is from the 3rd great-grandfather and one is from the 3rd great-grandmother from this ancestral couple? And the answer there is, well, yes, it is possible, but that is not the only possibility. So this is a case of where you don't want to get tied into a answer without understanding what all the different possibilities are. So these 2 segments could represent 2 separate people that happen to be from that ancestral couple that all 4 of these people are related to. That's a possibility. It is also possible that both of these segments are from just one of those people. It just so happens that JK did not get that little segment on chromosome 15, and CH didn't get that chromosome number 10 part of it, but AM and SG did. So it's still possible that they all come from the same person. Another thing that is possible is it could be possible that these are represented on two completely different lines. If AM and SG happen to share some other relatives, not just this third great grandparent couple, it could be that JK matches them because they are related through another line completely. So you got three good possibilities there. You really have to narrow it down then by identifying, matches that go back. And in this case, usually what you're looking for is you're looking for people that you only relate in one possible way, and you relate back to this segment, and hopefully you have multiple people that relate in that one possible way back to that segment to say that this segment on chromosome 15 belongs to my third great grandfather, and this segment on chromosome number 10 belongs to my third great grandmother.
Awesome. Okay, so back to the questions from the live audience. If you could switch, there you go. Thank you. There is a question from Tom Bruce about Cherokee. If you could give us some further clarification, then I'll loop you in. But right now, I don't know what you really want Andy to answer. So that's why we're skipping you. But we're going to go to Robert Bell. All right. I took the Y67 and came up with 5 matches with no belt. I upped to Y111 and that had 2 new matches. I am a geek and upgraded to big Y. Did I just waste my money?
To say that whether you wasted your money, I don't know, Robert. You're going to have to answer that yourself. First off, one thing to remember with the surname Bell from Ireland and Scotland, it's like one of the most popular surnames in that area. Everybody from there has a Bell in there. So the fact that you didn't come up with Bells, that might be odd. Really, what that just probably means then is that as far as Bell, that became your surname for some other reason. There might be
a Garnet Lee change.
Yeah, there might be a name change in there somewhere. There might be an illegitimate child that took the surname of their mother. There's several different possibilities from that. So whether or not you wasted your money will depend on what you're able to use this for research for, and whether you get enjoyment out of that research. Just because you don't end up finding the answer doesn't mean that you don't enjoy the research. And so in that case, if this helps you do some research or look in some different ways or learn something new, I would say that's not a waste of money. That's my opinion, though.
Okay. So Tanya J is asking a lot of great questions. She might be a newbie. Make sure you go to the, let's see, where can we do it? Pull up the channel page over there. We're going to show you something here in just a second. Once it gets it. It's right there.
I have to type it all out.
All right, here's what I want you to do, all right? Let me pull this up to the stream. Let me turn this question off real quick for a second. You're not going to see all that analytics. Go to playlist. Right there, playlist. And you're going to scroll down and you're going to actually go to the homepage. My bad. Go to the homepage and skip back to analytics. So you're not going to start analytics. Go scroll down. And then you're going to see Genetic Genealogy 101, principles you need to know. And then if you scroll down lower, there should be Genetic Genealogy 201. If it's not, I'll show you where it is. Big GEDmatch for beginners, online genealogy, keep going. Nope. All right. So then you go to the playlist. After you watch Genetic Genealogy 101 from that channel page, then you go to the playlist, and then there is going to be Genetic Genealogy 201. So if you'll watch those, that's going to help a lot of the questions that you have. But we're going to go ahead and come back to this one question that came in. And let's go here. How can you tell what's the father or mother DNA side on 23andMe? And it really applies to all of them.
So how can you tell? Well, if you don't know, or if you don't have your mother or your father tested, then you can't. And I'm guessing you might be asking about the ethnicity estimates when they, do the little thingamajigger there. Let me pull up mine here and show.
Were you ready?
No.
Okay, my bad. Sorry, entertain the crowd while he's pulling something up and plugging
I'll
in
tell you when
passwords.
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm trying to look for other questions she has. I'm telling you, you've left a lot of great questions.
Okay, so now you can pull it up.
All right, I'll pull it up. Okay.
So on 23andMe, you can see here that I've had my mom and my dad tested, so it has it divided out to my mother and father. Whereas if I go to my grandfather, who I've had tested, it doesn't show anything on the parental thing because it doesn't know. So in that case, as far as the ethnicity results, it's not going to be able to divide out between your mother and father. With your matches, though, you can start to, use matches that you know. For instance, your cousins, second cousins. That will help divide out your matches into, hey, which ones are on your mother's side and which ones are on your father's side.
Okay. All right. You finished that one? Okay. So we're going to go to another preloaded question. And this one is the GEDmatch One-to-One tool. I don't know if you want to pull it up or not, but it is related to the GEDmatch One-to-One tool. Can the graphics give you credible evidence to zero in on an ancestor using GEDmatch One-to-One? And another way he said this is if you're...
That was the better way to ask it.
Well, this is universal. The other one is specific. He did the second way. In other words, if you're looking for a fourth great grandfather, John Smith, would you expect all his descendants who match you to have the same matches on the same chromosome? And this is from Brosharp, I believe it is, or Brosharp. Yeah. Oh, and thank you, Alice, for joining as a new member. Make sure that you look for the members only playlists that are on the channel page and also on that playlist page. And you're gonna be able to binge watch a whole lot of videos. So make sure that you look at that.
Okay, so to Brosharp's question. Yes, the answer is if you have a match. I'm trying to think of how to draw this out or whatever. But anyway, if you have a segment that you have identified to a fourth great grandfather, and on your genome there'll maybe be a half a dozen segments that you've designated as they belong to that fourth great grandfather. Any match that you have that is also descended from that fourth great grandfather is going to match you on at least one of those segments. Now, they may have some other segments which are from that fourth great grandfather that you didn't inherit, just like you have some segments that they didn't inherit. But that is actually one of the strategies then is identifying where some of these segments come from based on your matches and who you share in common. And then you can know other people that match there also are descended from that same way.
Awesome. Okay, so another question. What is the relationship between the Centimorgan entry and the start and end numbers in each row of the triangulation result? And this comes from the video, How to Triangulate DNA Matches with GEDmatch.
All right. So the easy answer that you should remember is there's no relationship. That's the easy answer. Centimorgans is different from absolute position. So the start and the end number is absolute position, and Centimorgan is a statistical measurement of recombination probability, if that makes any sense, which to most people doesn't. That's okay. That's why what you need to remember is that Centimorgans does not relate to the start and end number location. That's the easy. The hard answer, though, is how much absolute length equals one centimorgan varies across each chromosome and the position on the chromosome. So, for instance, on chromosome number 1 in the first 10 million, that might actually be 15 centimorgans. Whereas on chromosome number, I'm just going to pick 122, in the first 10 million, that might only be 8 centimorgans. Okay, so there's just a difference there between chromosomes, but also in location. Now, later on chromosome number 1, you might have a 30 million length, absolute length, that is only 5 centimorgans. And so that's why this gets really confusing. But the quick thing to remember is that centimorgans is not related to absolute position.
Awesome. Okay. So if you're enjoying Andy's answers to viewers' comments, make sure that you're hitting the like button, that you are saying yes during the chat. If you're watching live, you're saying yes in the comments after this video goes live, so during the replay. And that way we know you like this rapid fire, put him in the hot seat and have him ask a ton of questions.
Answer.
You're right. He answers, you ask. And I am tongue-tied because I have so many things going on in my brain at the same time. But Tom Bruce got his question in, and okay. I hope that we can answer it for him now. All right. So it says, I have a question about my Moytoy. Is that right? Is that what it says? Yep. Moytoy Cherokee I have in my tree. Is it real or not? And here's the follow-up. So Moytoy Cherokee is supposed to be made up or not recognized by nations. I have from my Ancestry DNA shows a lot of Moytoy. So how does he go about trying to figure out his Moytoy Chinese and whether it's Cherokee. Real or not? I keep saying Chinese. I'm sorry. I really do mean Cherokee. I do know how to read. But apparently it's just not firing all cylinders right now. But
so
anyway.
I will just start and say DNA is not going to help you. And that's for a couple of reasons, particularly when you mention Cherokee. So first reason is while there have been some tests of indigenous Americans, they are primarily South American, Central American, or Inuit. What you'll notice in there is that the Native American tribes of the United States and Canada are not part of that. And really it has to do with the fact that one, many of them are very resistant to any kind of DNA testing. And two, there's not really any kind of good records that would show who actually of these people that belong to these tribes are representative of that ancient Native American DNA. In other words, after the Europeans came over and colonized, there was a lot of intermixing between many of these Native American tribes and the European settlers. And with the Cherokee in particular, they were actually probably the most intermixed of any of the tribes in America, not only with the European settlers, also with Africans from the slave trade and later, as well as with some immigrants from Asia that had come over. So in essence, there's not really a good way to tell who is a full-blooded Cherokee, or for that matter, most others. Tribal membership is all dependent on the tribes. Whatever they say goes as to whether or not you can be part of it. And so, but in this case, DNA testing is not going to help you at all. And many people that have a Native American ancestry have taken DNA tests and found that it doesn't show up at all in their test for those reasons.
Yep. All right. So here's another one from our viewers. For the cluster program on GEDmatch, can it be downloaded, copy and paste, so it can be worked with to an Excel or Google Sheets? The only cluster I can download was in the auto segment zip.
No, you can't download. Well, let's see here. No, I don't believe so. Unless it's in the multiple kit analysis, there might be a way to download the cluster as a CSV file. I know with MyHeritage, they send you not only a HTML file that has the picture of it, but then they also send you a CSV or an Excel file that has the same information, but in a spreadsheet format. But with GEDmatch, I don't believe that there's a way that you can copy that to it. I haven't tried it. Maybe I should try that one of these times and see.
Okay, one more, and then we'll go back to the pre. So I do not know how to say this name. Can GEDmatch Tier 1 help determine haplogroup, or does it have to be through the test?
Yes, it has to be the test. GEDmatch doesn't have anything that is going to tell you your haplogroup.
Okay.
That's easy.
Okay. All right. Well, we're just going to go through a couple of these. When 23andMe tells me that a relative in common triangulates with one of my matches, can I rely on this being a true triangulation?
I would check it. I mean, when you're looking at the shared matches, there's that column that says, hey, common, shared in common, or whatever, that yes, that indicates triangulation. To me, that just gives you a time to then go into the chromosome, the advanced chromosome browser, and check to make sure A matches to B, B matches to C, and C matches to A in that. And then you've got something that triangulates.
All right, we're going to do another one. Tiffany, this is from our live audience. Ancestry lists 1% of a region, but says it could be 0 to 1%. Is that most likely junk DNA?
Yeah.
Okay. 23andMe, what would be the percentage difference of Centimorgans difference for a niece versus a half niece?
Oh, that's a good question here. And we'll go over to DNA Painter to the Shared CM tool, because you can see this on the Shared CM tool. All right. Do you want to pop up my screen?
I can. I was waiting for you to tell me to.
Okay, so this is the difference between a niece and a half niece. So if we look over nicely right here, we have a niece and a half niece. A niece shares, on average, about 1,740 centimorgans. A half niece, about half that, 870 centimorgans. The range, though, is a little bit of overlap. So a niece from 1,200 to 2,200, whereas a half niece from 490 to 1,315. So you
zoom that in.
Can I zoom that in?
On the browser.
Well, then my thing's
it's fine.
Gonna be.
You gotta mess it up. I know. I know. I'm so mean. But hey.
But
there you go.
The overlap on the high end for the half niece could be on the low end for a full niece. So.
All right. So here's the next one. The Maestro, I believe. Is that how you say that? I have a distant cousin on FTDNA. Only difference on Y stir test was genetic distance of 2 on Y111. We match all others. On big Y, only 3 differences. Our EOLs, you're going to have to define that for us all, are mid-late 1700s New York. Coincidence or clue?
That's a clue, because if you're talking, go back to the question.
Sorry, I'm trying to make it so that we can see it, and I can keep up with the chat. Okay. Sorry.
So with the big Y, if you only have 3 differences, then that's a really good indication as far as the closeness of this. So yeah, I would say that's a clue. It may be further back than where your end of lines are, but it's probably still doable.
All right, hold on a second. Oh, I can't go over. I'm going to do something over here. There we go. I think I just figured out how I can have him see the questions when I'm trying to manage the live chat. All right, let's go back to the pre-formatted questions. This one is from Suzanne. She is definitely a regular here on Family History Fanatics. And this is the question, and there's follow-up if you want it. Between Centimorgans versus SNPs, which one is most important regard to determining the validity of a match, or are they equally important?
So it depends on where the match is. For instance, if you've got a match that you match 100 Centimorgans with, but for whatever reason, that 100 Centimorgans is only got, let's say, 1,000 SNPs that is part of that match. That's not that good reliability because the SNPs are too low for that. On the other hand, if you've got a match that has, let's just say 10 Centimorgans, really small, but that 10 Centimorgans has 2,000, 3,000 SNPs that are part of it. Well, that actually is a really reliable segment. So it's really a combination of both of them. You don't want to have too low of segments, or sorry, not segments, Centimorgans, but you also don't want to have too low of it. Now, the good ratio as a rule of thumb to use is you want to have at least 100 Centimorgans per segment, 100 SNPs per centimorgan. So if you have a 20 centimorgan segment, you would expect at least 2,000 SNPs. Okay. One of the things that you see is as you get with some of these, the different chips that different companies have used, is the amount of SNPs for each segment has decreased just because there's not as much overlap. There's not as much common SNPs that are being tested to be able to compare to. And so you could expect some false matching from that. In general, if you're looking at the same company, same test, which is hard to find whether or not you're looking at the same test necessarily, they're going to have pretty high SNP counts. Now, usually I think MyHeritage gives you that information up front really well. All the others don't give you that information up front. You have to dig for it, or they don't give it to you at all. So really here, what you're looking for both together as far as, determining the validity of a match.
Okay. All right. Here's another one. What is the minimum viable segment size on different length chromosomes? For example, 20, 21, and 22. Is CM measurement related to chromosome length? And this is from Donovan Family History. Okay.
So CM measurement in general is not related to chromosome length. CM varies, as far as absolute distance all throughout your genome, and it doesn't follow, hey, there's more CM on this than there is on that, other than the fact that some of these chromosomes are longer and so they can have more. CM is a measurement of the possibility or the probability of recombination. It's a horrible way of trying to explain to people how to measure it because it makes no sense, but that's how we measure it. As to the minimum viable segment size, if we're talking about the minimum viable that you can almost certainly say is a real segment, then you're looking at 15 centimorgans. And this is based on studies that Tim Jansen and John Walden had done. At 15 centimorgans, 99% of the segments are real segments. At 7 centimorgans, around 7 to 8 centimorgans, is where the 50-50 mark is. So in other words, half of the segments that are 7 centimorgans are false segments. And then as you go lower than 7 centimorgan, it gets worse to the point that at 99 or at 3 centimorgans, 99% are false segments. In other words, they're there by chance. They don't actually indicate any kind of relationship. So if I understand what you want by the minimum viable segment size, I would use 15 centimorgans as the minimum viable segment size.
All right. And I was just saying that sounded an awful lot like the video that Andy released this Wednesday about the debate continues over the usefulness of small segment DNA matches. Centimorgan, not segment. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's go through these questions that people have been asking here. And I think this one actually you have covered, but just to confirm, on GEDmatch, 11 chromosomes are Native American. Chromosomes 14 is 25.8%, which is the highest. How do I narrow down the tribe comparing this matches?
You can't.
Okay.
That's a simple answer.
Okay.
There's not data to get down to any kind of tribal level.
Okay. When I uploaded my raw DNA on My True Ancestry, it showed my haplogroup to be mostly R1, B1, B, and J. What does this say about my heritage, or does it even say anything?
Well, R1B1B is, I believe, a European haplogroup. So that just means on your dad's side, they were most likely from Europe, but not necessarily. So does it say anything about your overall heritage? No. It says something about one particular ancestor, one particular ancestral line, hundreds and thousands of years back.
All righty. So the next one,
that's the one you just
I'm
asked.
sorry, I hit the wrong thing. This is the one I wanted to do. My grandmother was born in Hawaii, but she isn't showing on the 1910 census with her brothers and sisters. She was born in 1907. Could this mean adopted? That is actually a research question. Because there are a lot of reasons why people don't show up on the census records. They could be traveling on the day of the enumeration. They could be moving and they got missed in each location. They could be in a foreign country and not be in the military or in the government occupation, and they don't have a government job. I had an ancestor who didn't show up or a relative who didn't show up in the 1930 and 1940 census because they were in an import-export business. And so they were in Brazil, both of those census times, and they don't show up, even though they're U.S. censuses. Citizens, excuse me. And then
they aren't the censuses, they're citizens that aren't in the censuses.
Now you guys know what I do this to my kids all the time. In my head, I know what I'm saying, but my mouth doesn't get the words right. So I feel like Doc from Snow White. Anyway, the other thing is they could be under a different name. They could be in a different household. The enumerator may have misunderstood the name. So you have to really dive a lot deeper. This is when I would recommend doing neighbor searches from 1900 and 1920 and see who they are and where they are. And if they've stayed in the same location, then go find them in the 1910 census, and maybe you'll pick up your lost person. I wouldn't necessarily jump to adoption right away, but it could also be a possibility.
And I'll just bring up and plug Tammy Hepps, if any of y'all know Tammy Hepps. Recently on her blog, she talked about something that she just found out. And this is in Homestead, Pennsylvania, where she does all of her research for her relatives there. And I think it was this time frame. It might be the 1910, 1920, sometime around there. Basically, the census taker for this district of where she was looking for some family members had started on the wrong doors. In other words, they were supposed to go to the left side of the street, and they started on the right side of the street. And for the first 2 days, probably, they were pretty much taking the census for the complete wrong part of the district, which then they got, behind. And they had like a 7-day or a 2-week period where they had to do all of this. And so by her going through all of this enumeration and several of these other enumeration districts for not only that census, but the one before and the one after, she basically has come to the conclusion that this person completely fabricated their enumeration district after they realized that, they did the wrong one. They started doing the right one, and it was probably getting close to time that they were supposed to turn stuff in. And so they completely fabricated the rest. And so there's like 150 families totally made up. It shows the creativity of the person there, because all these families look like real families in the census, but they are not found in any other census. And all the people that lived there in the preceding census and the later census and in the city directories of around that time period don't show up in this census at all. So I wouldn't jump to that as a possibility, but that is a possibility.
Right. And then can somebody be counted twice on a census if they stayed with family in another state? Or yes, absolutely. People can be overcounted and undercounted.
Now they shouldn't be, because the census is supposed to be based on where you spent the night on a certain day.
Mm-hmm.
But
if they don't come on that day, or you're confused, or
you're not going to come on that
don't
day,
speak
or
the
you
same language.
whatever. So there's lots of reasons why people might be thinking, oh, well, yeah, there's 5 people in this household, even though on that night 2 of them were not in that household, and a 5th person or 6th person was in that household. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can be double counted in the census.
All right. Now, just so you know, we kind of cut off any of the live stream questions because we do have another live stream after this one we don't want to necessarily be late for. However, if you are a channel member and you're wondering where I'm at, I'm here and I'll be there as soon as it's over. So we're going to go through.
Oh, and if you want to join,
click the join button.
Click the join button, then you can be a part of that live stream.
And that live stream is going to be a writing deep dive, but I would counsel against having children present. It is PG-13. It's not going to be R-rated, but I just
PG-13.
But anyway, here we go. Here's a question. Okay. It's on the screen. It's been there for a while. I was giving you a chance to read it.
Oh, I have 4 fourth cousin once removed who only have small segments. Matches to me. They are all siblings. However, they all triangulate. Isn't this a valid case? No. They are all siblings. That's the key. And so that's really not a triangulate. You can't use siblings to triangulate. So you're talking about a single 4.5 centimorgan small segment that 4 siblings happen to share. No, it's not I'm not saying that it isn't from a common ancestor. I'm saying that, no, that doesn't show that it's from a common ancestor.
Okay. I just had to make a quick response. All right. This one is from Mom+5. Hey, I've actually watched your channel before. Why does Ancestry seem to stop DNA at 5 generations and I have to use GEDmatch to make 6 and 8?
So you're talking about your match list where it says fifth cousins or something like that? Mm-hmm. Because, well, let's go back over here.
I got it.
Because once we get out here to 5th cousins, you'll notice, hey, it's between 0 and 117. Well, 6th cousins is 0 to 71, 7th cousins is 0 to 57, and 8th cousins is 0 to 42. So at that level, there's a big likelihood that it's actually any one of those things. It's not so clear cut that it's got to be this. And so they're just saying, I think Ancestry is just saying, hey, this is the 5th cousin and beyond level.
Okay. All right, let's keep it going rapid fire. MyHeritage shows my 2nd cousin matches 145 centimorgans while his half niece matches me at 150. Is that correct?
Yeah, it could be. Let me think here. A 2nd cousin matches at 145 while his half niece. So that would be your half cousin once removed. I think that would be your half 2nd cousin once removed. Maybe. Yeah, that's close enough within. It's on the high end, but
okay,
I'll accept it.
Okay. All right.
It's also real quick. There's also the possibility you might be related to this half niece in another way as well.
Mm-hmm, because of that half part.
In which case you could easily add, more centimorgans to, something that was even lower.
Can I read that question?
Which
one? The one that's at the top before I put it on the screen. Do you want to answer it or skip it?
Oh, we can answer it.
Okay.
So when is the next DNA workshop? Right now, tentatively, it is going to be in July. It's going to be a 4-week workshop, all about visual phasing. We'll take it from, we'll do lots and lots and lots of examples of visual phasing with 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 2 people, half siblings, doing it with paper, doing it on a spreadsheet, doing it the segment phasing way that I normally do it, doing it with stuff from GEDmatch, doing it with stuff from 23andMe, lots of different things. I'm still working on finishing up, the outline for it, and then we were going to have that. So it'll be a 4-week long workshop, probably on a Thursday night, 2 hours each night.
Yeah.
I get to assign you homework. You don't have to do the homework if you don't want to. but the whole point of the homework is to help you out. And yeah, so be looking for that hopefully in the next couple of weeks once I get this stuff all done for it.
So yes, it is Summer of DNA, but with a twist, there will be only one educator. The writing workshop, I'm tentatively scheduling it either for September or October. I'm leaning more towards September because band and swim season are crazy in October, but I'm open for the people who actually love coming to those workshops to asking. Plus, I'll also consider the schedule. So just thought I'd give you a heads up. So writing will probably be September or October. All right, we're done with that one. Why don't I have any Whiteheads matching me on Big Y? I have a few Ogdens.
1, Whiteheads might not have tested. 2, you're not really a Whitehead. That's why.
Okay.
That's why I don't have any Lees matching me. Because 1, I'm not a Lee, but they might not have tested either.
Okay. All right. I did that one. Sorry, my bad. Here we go. A follow-up question.
Oh, I thought it was something else.
Well, several of us did. He promises he doesn't curse for my benefit. Anyway, on the matching chromosomes, if you match a third cousin on a section chromosome 19, is there a program that can check only that connection versus other shared matches?
Yes. The easy way is on GEDmatch. There is, in the tier 1, there is a segment search. And so on that, you can actually choose a specific chromosome and a start and end point on that chromosome to be looking for all of your matches that match somewhere on that segment. That's the easy way. With 23andMe and Family Tree DNA and MyHeritage, there is a hard way. And what that is you have to download your segment data, and then you have to sort that by chromosome, by start and end position, and then you can go down, find that section to find out who actually matches over that. It's more in depth. But you can use those other programs for that. Awesome.
Okay, I have 5 more, and then we have to cut it off.
All right.
Okay, hold on. Let me do that. Okay. So there we go. If I have someone with 2 segments of DNA on, say, chromosome 10, and they are 6 Centimorgans each, back to back, can that be considered 12?
Okay, so 6 Centimorgans back to back. Yeah, I guess it depends on what it is, because it depends on how you did this. So it might be that you have hard breaks or something there, and that's why it is. Or it might be that, hey, there's a couple of little red spots there, and they did this. I wouldn't say that absolutely this can be now looked at as 12. I would say that, okay, this has a good possibility, and let's go and see if we have some other people that also match in this area at larger than 6 Centimorgans to help clarify that, yeah, this is a good match.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that was that same one, right? The Deborah. Yes. Okay. So here's the next one. Excuse me. Sorry. It is a live show. We cut that out usually. All right. My mom's first cousin has 159 Centimorgans over 10 segments in common with me. So mom's first cousin. Is that possible?
Okay. That sounds way too low.
Okay.
Okay. Your mom's first cousin. So you would be a first cousin once removed. So
you want to
actually,
show?
it's not way too low now that I look at it. Yeah, you can show.
Okay.
Let me bump up. So you would be your mom's, this match would be a first cousin once removed. It's possible. It says the low end is 102 Centimorgans, so 159 Centimorgans. But this is over 10 segments. And so that's like really low Centimorgans per segment. You know, I would have expected fewer segments at that level, but I don't have exact segment data to be able to say. I might have to run some tests to see. One of the things with Centimorgans and segments that you might find has to do with endogamy, and it's one of the checks that they usually do. And I think I can't remember if it's average of 10 centimorgans per segment or something like that. Or in other words, you might have a lot of centimorgans shared, but also a lot of segments. And so it may look like you're first cousins or first cousins once removed, but in actuality, you are third or fourth or fifth cousins. You're just multiple lines that get back to you. So, yeah.
Hold on. So this chart, can you tell people where it is? I'm dropping the link.
Oh, DNApainter.com.
And what is it called?
The shared CM tool.
All
it's
right.
11 o'clock.
Yes, we're going through these last ones because I said we were going to go through these last ones. All right. But it's up to you to keep it fairly short. If a father and son are both connected to me, how is it that I share more DNA with the son than the father?
Because you might be related not just through the father, you might be related through the son's mother as well.
Okay. All right. How do you figure correct relationship in Centimorgans if you're inbred?
So there, what it is you have a multiple relationship with this person, and so you just have to figure out what relationship it is. So let's look at something basic to understand. If you and your sibling had a child, then that child would have a mother who is also their aunt. So you would basically have to add the amount of DNA you'd expect from a child plus the amount of DNA you'd expect from an aunt. So you'd end up seeing much higher portions. Same with first cousins. Let's say that two first cousins marry and have a kid. Then there's multiple lines of relationship then to that child. And so you got to basically add those. And so, and this is the case with, if you actually mapped it out, even with endogamy, which is, a big messy bush, if you mapped it all out, you knew what all these different relationships were, you could make a prediction of how much DNA you should share with that person.
All right. That one is done. Okay, this is the last question. There's two other funny questions. Well, one funny and one I need to follow up question.
Okay.
I'm helping a friend find biological father. Closest matches on the father side have 50 Centimorgans on MyHeritage, FTD, and GEDmatch. With 4 similar matches, can I realistically expect to have any success?
So the problem that I have with these questions is people put in clarifying words like realistically. I don't know realistically. I know that plenty of people have had success in this case and in this situation of an adoptee or finding a unknown relative where their closest matches are 50 Centimorgans. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's easy, but it has been found. So I would say don't despair and press ahead on this.
Okay, awesome. All right, so here's a funny question.
Will Ancestry ever provide a chromosome browser? What's your opinion? No, they won't. They've said they're not ever going to. That's not my opinion. That's their statement.
Okay. And then this is the last one. Is it possible for that DNA or writing workshop to take place similar time than now instead of in the evening using US time? It's definitely something we can consider.
If it is going to take place during the day, it's going to have to be on Saturdays. And that just has to do with my work schedule and everything. So and the nice thing about it is if you're paying for the workshop, you get the recordings for it. So even if you don't watch it live, then you'll have access to that as well. Granted, not live, but in the past,
access to it for 6 months, so you can watch it again and again and again.
Yeah, and we've had in the past people that have stayed up till midnight or 2 a.m. For these, as well as others that just watch the replay for it that's available the next day. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, if enough people would rather have it, if there are enough of our friends from Europe would be interested in actually participating live, send us an email, comment, and say, hey, I really would like it live. Can you do it on Saturdays instead? And I'll take that into account here in the next couple of weeks.
We also have a mailing list of people who have participated or shown interest in the DNA workshop. So we can send it out and put it in a little poll. And then if there are enough to break that off and make that work, that's another way. So look for those emails. If you're not on that email, then make sure you go over to familyhistoryfanatics.com and go to the contact page and just say, put me on the DNA workshop list, put me on the writing list. Now, I probably can't do Saturday writing workshops because of the band and the swimming and all the other stuff that I'm involved. So he can stay and I can go run kids. So usually it's going to be an evening thing, a Thursday evening, because even during the day it becomes kind of challenging because they're going everywhere. And little Missy Quattro, if she passes her placement test, might be taking college courses as a freshman in high school. So life is going to be crazy in the fall. So I can't commit to that time, but I can definitely commit to evenings. So the DNA, we could do multiple groups. The writing will probably just be an evening time on a Thursday. So there we go.
Well, I've got another solution for our viewers here. If any of you happen to be, independently wealthy, multimillionaire, billionaires, and you would like to pay us to quit our jobs so that we can do this all full time, contact us and we can get a contract written up, and we can do that. And then we can not only do these workshops anytime, we can do them multiple times during the month. And
then if we haven't captured your question, if you came in after the question cutoff, take your question out of chat, go put it in the regular comment section, and we'll come back throughout the week and give you an ancestor. But you better do it this week, because once the videos are a week old, we can't keep up with the backlog. We're trying, but that is the way to get your questions answered.